introduction on there, so you should be able to see me, red, orange, and yellow.
Yep.
So I normally make the joke that I'm the hottest thing inside the frame, and it's to literally make the point that we are the warmest thing out here. So when you are recording, we'll ask two things for either one of you. Like, we're going to be in spaces where there's going to be parked cars and some people walking by. We don't film cars or people.
Okay.
However, you're going to try, if you can, to keep one of the other person in view, because we are the warmest thing out here. Much easier to find a cold spot if there's a warm reference. You're going to see if I move this camera this way, the whole color changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also have this set up to where there's a blue dot bouncing around the screen. The blue dot is there to show you the coldest spot in the frame at that moment. Okay, so I'm looking for 15 plus degree temperature drops. So it is about 56 degrees out here for us ambient. So I'll be looking for 41 degrees and below out of that. And with those, holy cow, water system. So don't stop here, keep going. Thank you. So the other thing I like to point out is we're looking for those blue and black areas. And okay, there's always going to be blue and black because, yes, it is chilly out here. The glass is always going to be colder than everything else. I'm looking for blue and black to move and to take shape. When I say take shape, I want head, shoulders, moving arms and legs. So that's what we've caught with this in the past. That's hopefully what we'll capture with it again one day. When I say one day, it's because I capture probably 4 to 6 pieces of this that I will put my stamp of approval on, kind of figures, a year. Not 12 an episode. Okay, so I'm not a TV show host.
Oh, we know that.
So again, a lot of people show up and they're like, "I'm a big fan of Ghost Adventures." I'm like, "Super awesome, thank you so much."
We're gonna get 10 things tonight.
I know, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and stop.
Did I touch?
You're good.
Does it look like a square instead of a full circle?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, perfect. That means you're good. So
Perfect.
But this is where I start withholding that information, and I'm not going to be giving you questions like, what color is George Washington's white horse? Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. So this used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion. So first and foremost, you need to know that Charles and Eliza had a son named Charles and a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Chucks. That's why we look for secondary clues. That way I know how to address which one we have. You might hear the name Charles. I need a secondary clue so I know which one it is. Getting my point?
Yep.
All right, now, son and nephew, signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. It's a big deal for us, but I hate politics. We're going to move on. The only reason I bring it up very quickly like that is because if I don't and give them the recognition that they deserve, they will do it for me in a very nasty manner through the spirit box. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. I've been coming to this location for 4 years. So, which, by the way, this is the location where we had those like triple-digit dangerous EMFs.
Oh, wow.
So I wrapped the things up pretty quickly here and like really sped through this once we started getting a lot of readings.
Yeah.
So just kind of keep that in mind. I did walk through here before I met with you guys on the corner just to kind of like get a quick gist of things, and there was nothing abnormal about the place, at least at that point in time. So we'll see what happens while we're here now. Anyway, we're going to talk about Eliza. She has a much better history anyway. Eliza marries Charles at a young age, according to today's standards. I say it that way because if you're going to ask her how old she was, don't expect numbers from the colonial days that she came from, like 12 and 14, when young ladies got married.
Yeah.
Think of today's standards, because the husband was over double her age. So I'm just kind of giving you the clues here, without giving you the direct answer. She married him because her father was over in England. He thinks he's dying. He's trying to bring all his children home one last time. Eliza didn't believe he was dying, so she stayed put right here. He got married. It's 1744. You don't get married in that year to get a green card. We're not a country. So no such thing as a green card yet. This is a true love story, believe it or not. So this is a place of respect. Told you, ghost hunting's not always scary. But she was right. Dad didn't die right away. And instead, he starts sending her gifts from England to where you're standing. One of those gifts happens to be the plant seeds of indigo. That's a plant that makes blue dye that makes your blue jeans blue. So Mom's wearing it right now because that's what we use it for.
Yeah.
However, when she got those seeds, she didn't know what to do with them. She actually had to learn from her servants and slaves, which we are standing in their quarters for the property, of how to keep it going, because it's not always warm here. Obviously, we're all sitting out here with jackets on. Then she had to learn how to make the dye. She did that right here, and then moved it to a cash crop down by the Stono River. Got a hold of Dad overseas, told him rice plantation prices are dropping. We're going to make a killing with the indigo. And now we have an international businesswoman during colonial days.
Wow.
Something absolutely unheard of. So I don't know how extensive your histories went in college, but that is something they should be teaching no matter which course it is.
I taught him. I homeschooled him. So.
Oh, I meant in school, like in college.
No, not up until college. So I taught him all of American history and
Gotcha.
Everything.
So we are going to focus on 2 major topics while we're here. So you can ask things out loud if you guys want. There's no right or wrong way to do this, or we can just focus on it. On your hands, I'm going to put Eliza's death. because those are 4 common things that we get answers to. There's 4 major questions: how old she was, what she died from, where she's buried, which president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So hopefully on my end, I'm going to be getting answers to what happened to the mansion. So you have to remember, I'm here 5 out of 7 nights a week, depending on the weather. So I mean, I'll be open 7 days a week, but most of the time I have 1 rainy day. It's kind of how that works here in South Carolina. So she knows what questions we're going to be asking. So, and I always pass through here before I meet with you guys anyway, not just checking out the EMF, but is to let her know who's coming. So I always rattle off all the names. I already wrote them down. So if there were 10 of you here, I'd have all 10 of your names memorized already. I would just have to put the name to the face. It was easy for you guys because there's only 2 of you, male and female. It was nice and easy for me. But I told her already, Stacy and Ryan are coming with me tonight. So we're going to be respectful while we're here. We'll be brief. Just throw us a few answers, throw us a bone, and we'll be out of your way. So again, I do that every night. It's just a respect factor. Just because when I do change this up every year, which means I take out 1 space and I add a new one because I like to kind of keep the same time frame and route, and it just go off a little bit. But this was a space I was going to take out because I was getting disrespectful ghost hunters on your end, like, come on, Eliza, and then they're going to take a leak in the corner. So I was getting very nasty messages, like, and they were not radio chatter. I will say that. So a lot of disembodied voices like, please just leave us alone, you need to go away. Like, these were things that I can analyze and say, this is not radio chatter because it went over 13 different stations. Again, that's a long time. You know, 1 or 2 stations you can second guess it, but 13 you can't. Like, that's definitely not a radio chatter DJ guy going, please just leave us alone. You know, DJ wants you to listen. But anyway, back to my point. So we're going to do kind of like a 1 or 2 laps around this place. We're going to stay away from the vehicles. Obviously, we're going to stay on the inner circle. We're lucky enough that there's only 2 cars in here tonight. I definitely want to be watching the EMF while we're here. I'll check this real quick. It does say the word detective, cold, rocks. I still don't see anything like that's super, like, hey, we definitely have a ghost with us right now. Have you heard anything that's standing out to you?
I heard something, though, when we were walking by the barn.
What'd you get?
It said, well, he fell.
It said what?
Well, he fell.
Well, well, he fell down.
That's interesting.
And again, I only want you to give me those partials like that. So don't assume that it was down at the end of it. So you're on the right track. Right.
So when I am trying to keep one of you in the frame, I really need to kind of be back away from you. Isn't that right?
It's completely up to you. I usually say that's usually a great suggestion. Like, our next location is so filled with foliage and bricks that we have enough heat signatures that you won't have to keep us in view.
Okay, great.
With this location, the wall's going to hang on to the sun's heat from the daytime. So you might have a pretty good variance in there. With us, like, we should be white. Almost in color, especially me from talking for the past 5 to 8 minutes. So my throat should be pretty warm right now.
Oh yeah, your throat is warm, and so we're looking for cold.
Blue and black. So I definitely want to pull out this EMF meter. I'll be writing down any of the numbers that I get, and then.
So as long as there's variance in the background, I don't have to keep you.
Correct.
I've got you.
That's
now.
A great question.
Thank you.
Thank you for understanding that. 3.6 already. So there's a small little readout. So yeah, let's just do 1 or 2 laps, and if you want to put both headphones on and just kind of shout out whatever you hear, we'll kind of see what we get out of this. Cool.
Great.
Let us. 24.7. 8.1. 15.5. So it begins. Thank you, Eliza, for those numbers.
Is there anything wrong?
Father-in-law.
That's cool.
Eliza, do you want to tell us the name of your father-in-law? Is that something you want us to talk about tonight? And they just go right back down to 0. So usually when you get, if it's something from a man-made object like a transformer or our cell phones, it would hover in that area, like 15, 17, 11. When these things go back and forth, like 25, 1, 18, 2, You know what I mean? Like, those are pretty big variances.
Yeah.
And those
Exactly.
are the things I look for. But this location has no electricity in it whatsoever. So, again, been coming here for 4 years and never know what the hell's going to show up.
Wow.
Eliza, are we talking about your husband? Yes, no question. Just say his name. 37.5.
2008, I was working in New York City.
Readings are everywhere. Not like super high where I'm like worried about it, but
Good.
they are like all over the place. And every time he starts to give me a phrase or two is usually when it's like at its highest.
Wow.
Eliza, you
3.
gotta give us something. While we're talking about your husband.
Dove.
Dove.
Eliza, yesterday was one of your son's birthdays. Can you tell me which son that was?
Eight six.
Eliza, which son had a birthday yesterday? At this point, I'm only going to be marking down anything over 25. Of course, it gives me a 24.6 like right away. And with your camera, Stacy, just so you know, I don't always follow up in real time, especially when I have my larger groups, because the camera's small.
Sure.
I send the video to YouTube, so I can watch it on a computer. You guys can watch it on your TV.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
again, it's just so much easier to watch it, and I do watch it in basically fast forward.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to find an anomaly moving by in quicker motion if I'm
Right.
watching it in faster motion.
Yeah.
So, and that goes for all 3 of the cameras that I use, including the SLS camera, and I do use an infrared camera as well.
Okay.
So the infrared is great for capturing orbs and things like that. It's not super exciting, and it takes forever to upload, so it's always the last camera to come out. It takes because it takes the longest to upload. But the thermal and the SLS are usually pretty quick. Of course, I start talking about anybody but Eliza, and it stays at zeros. Eliza, back to you. Sorry, we took the focus off of you. What do you guys want to know? What question intrigued you the most?
I'd like to know how old Eliza was when she got married.
Okay, you just asked her. Because again, ghosts, you don't have to shout for a ghost to hear you. They've been listening to us this entire time. 7. Eliza, you heard the woman. Can you tell us how old you were when you passed away? An unfortunate event, but it was your time. I think you understand that. You're not giving us the radical numbers we had before. You can get closer.
Ryan, we should talk. We could ask her something. Ask Eliza
What do
something.
you got?
Did you stay married?
Well, that's a yes/no question. First off,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But she and Charles remained married until his death, and she remained a widow.
Wow. Eliza, how many children did you have?
asked you two major questions: how old you were when you passed, and how many children you had. Take either one of those answers. You know, we always ask a lot of questions at once to see where things are going to stick. So we'll give you another minute, or you can just tell us to go home. You can tell us just to work home. Actor Badly. Last call. So should we just stick around, or you can tell us to go home? We'll wrap it up.
Smell a cigar.
That gentleman walking by, I believe, had one.
Yeah.
And my vape smells like Cuban, but it's not that authentic. Like, I know that gentleman must have had one.
Here at the opening.
And these numbers have died down pretty drastically.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and put a stop to your video. We'll go back to where we started and kind of leave for it. Hall too. Like, that is a huge movie location.
Yes. Yep.
I don't know if they told you about all the movies that were
Like
filmed
at least
there.
3 they mentioned.
I think The Patriot is like one of the bigger ones, and then there was an old TV miniseries called The North and the South. I know most of that was filmed on that plantation.
Really? Did you ever travel to do this in different cities like Savannah?
Yeah, so if I go on vacation or I'm traveling anywhere, you know, like sometimes, like we usually go up to see my in-laws in the Pittsburgh area about once or twice a year. My father-in-law is my biggest fan, so I always make sure I take the bag with me so he can see whatever's new, but we'll always hit like some weird odd museum or something along those lines. So yeah, do I go to other cities? Yeah, but I don't always do like an overnight stay. That's not necessary to me. Ghosts don't give a shit if it's day or night. So I will go to a museum just like you guys do, you know, for vacation or whatever, and I just have all my gear running. That camera, like there's enough jackets, I don't have it on tonight, but they have a little pocket right here where the camera's just hanging out.
Yeah.
So I'll have that running as kind of like a POV, and then obviously that spirit box will be running on mute in my pocket. I have an EMF meter that'll pull out. Like I'm not walking around with my vest that says paranormal investigator. You know, I just go and visit these places, pay my respects just like you, and then I go home, go through all the media, and then do the research to see if anything's stuck. So in the event that anybody's going to come through this area, so tourists can walk all the way through by themselves, so we may see couples walking through for a nice romantic stroll.
I'll put it down then.
But other tours will come out of that wall, or they'll come in the way that we did. It's a random Monday night, so it's kind of funny. I do walk the city to see how many other tours are out, because of course that's business and competition. I didn't see one tour out when I was talking about. So just kind of an interesting thought. But when you do see them, just kind of lower it. That way, again, people get weirded out.
I can't say that I blame them.
EMF in this particular location is always pretty low, and I usually wait for anything above an 8 anyway, just because we do have lampposts to kind of debunk what's going on around us. And we got the word roses. That's going to make a lot of sense here shortly. I'll explain what that is, so I'm not surprised by that. It normally comes out of your spirit box, which is funny. Did you hear anything along the way? I know we were kind of chatting.
No, I was just listening to you.
All right, so again, I ramble through this one too, so we're not going to go through the whole alley. I'll explain, because I've actually been kicked out of here. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And actually, that is the funny part of the story. But this is Philadelphia Alley. So it used to be called Duelers Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. So kind of like take 10 paces, turn and shoot kind of duels.
Right, yeah.
So here's how this story goes. Again, every ghost tour tells you the same exact story. I'm just going to give you a few extra details because you're ghost hunting and not on a campfire, you know, cheesy marshmallow kind of ghost tour. But anyway, doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. If the song Brown Eyed Girl shows up while we're here, it's not coincidence. We get it all the time. It's part of his name. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, sometimes I can not debunk things, but kind of give you a heads up about certain things that we'll get all the time. But anyway, Dr. Ladd moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with all of the cash. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after her money.
Oh, wow.
He tells her to get rid of the doctor. He comes down here to Charleston to prove that he's not. So on his way into town, the coachman he had set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a very good start to his day in Charleston. So, sorry, I'm always looking over my shoulder in this location because, yes, I've been kicked out of here. Yeah. The neighbors do not like me here. And funny story, it'll be at the end. So the coachman set him up, and somebody was walking by and seeing what was about to happen. And by the way, that coachman that set him up to be robbed and killed is kind of like having a bad Uber driver today, like just dropping you off in a bad spot kind of deal. Yep. So just kind of keep that in perspective. I get a lot of teenagers here that need that perspective, just so you guys know. Yeah. And sorry, you still look really, really young to me.
Yeah, I do.
Without my beard, dude, I probably look younger than you.
Oh, yeah. I look like 20 if I shave anything, so.
I get carded for milk if I shave. Like, that's where I'm at. Yeah. Most of my career, no matter if I was doing this or not, I worked overnight. So I have stayed out of the sun, we'll just say, for mainly over 40 years.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so that's how I'm able to keep the skin looking the way that I do. I grew the beard so I would actually get some respect. Like that's where I'm at with it.
See,
I get that.
Great.
And I'm just going to continue it going. Like, I video called my daughter the other day. I haven't seen her in like 2 months, and she's like, "Oh my God, the beard, Dad." I'm like, "I told you I was going to grow it out." Anyway, back to Dr. Ladd. So that person walking by, seeing what was about to happen, his name is Ralph Isaacs. And I say his name slowly is because he has the same initials as where the doctor came from, Rhode Island. So RI was coming up all the time on regular spirit boxes, like people spelling out the word victorious, and we were just capturing the RI. I wanted to get verification on that, so I bought a new device. It's called an Envoy, but it's basically a digital Ouija board. It works just like my EMF meter, so anytime there's a fluctuation, it gives us a letter instead of a number. So that's kind of how it works. We've gotten the letters RI in consecutive order about half a dozen times in the year that I've had it. So take that for what it's worth. Back to Ralph. He tells Dr. Ladd, "Dude, I know the guy. I know this driver. He's going to try to kill you. Come with me. I got friends at 59 Church Street. You can rent a room from them. You'll be safe." Doc took him up on the offer. The two gentlemen became friends. Now, the longer the doctor stays here in Charleston, the more money he's making. He's proving his point. He's not after Amanda's money. So Amanda gets wind of this, and she's moving down. That way they could be married. Obviously, it's a big deal. Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Part of the reason why I wanted to take this whole story out of my route was because a whistling ghost is a big cliche. No matter where you go, every haunted city is going to have a whistling ghost. Ours just happens to be a doctor. Dr. Ladd and Ralph go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because that's the hierarchy of Charleston. The doctor makes more money. He gets better seats. So they go see Richard III one night from Shakespeare, and on their way home, they're just walking through the streets. Dr. Ladd and Ralph start arguing over the actress they just saw. Dr. Ladd thought she was great. Ralph didn't. It turns into Ralph insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda. Back home in Rhode Island, it got really ugly, and they went their separate ways. I told you Ralph has friends around town. He goes to the newspaper and places an ad with his friends at the newspaper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a "you're a disgrace to society" kind of shit, right? Doc saw the ad, rebutted with, "Let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this. Somebody's going to die." Keep in mind that this whole argument started with an actress. Now, kind of dumb and stupid. So the two gentlemen came down. They went back to back, took 10 paces, turned. The doc points his gun in the air. Shot his one shot. He didn't want to kill his friend. Just wanted to have the courage to show up. But Ralph has his one bullet. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. Doc didn't die. Ralph proved his point. Still pissed off, not willing to forgive.
Yeah.
Doc's friends picked him up, took him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment on November 2nd of 1786. I'm going to point out two things. In 1786, gunshot wounds are a lot different back then than what we know of them now. Secondly, he's a doctor. He probably just thought he had lead poisoning and tried to bleed it out, but he failed because he died. Now, every ghost tour tells you to listen for the whistles as you're here. Do you hear how quiet it is right now?
Yeah.
It is always this quiet. You can come down here on a Saturday afternoon in July. It's this quiet, except for some of the air conditioning units that will run. It's always this quiet. That's why I love this place. It's pretty serene. Now, if you walk all the way through here and use your voice recorder from your phone, you might capture something. Just keep in mind, every local knows the damn story. So anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street, we all throw a whistle down the alley. So again, I used to do it every single morning. So my office is this way. My old garage is that way. So I used to have to walk past the alley at 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4, depending on how big the tour was. And I'd always throw a whistle down here, especially since I've been thrown out. Let's get into that. Now,
I would swear I just saw an owl go by.
I did.
Yeah.
And there he is.
Do you see him up there, right?
Yeah.
If he gives us... I just heard that damn whistle. Did you hear that? I swear I do not make this stuff up. It's not often that I will actually capture a whistle down here. Because it's not going to be a person whistling like, oh, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be very like, and that's what I just heard. Interesting. Anyway, by the way, if we're going to capture a whistle, your camera records audio, and I have a voice recorder.
Oh,
so,
perfect.
so that way, if we got it, we got it. I'll definitely be looking for it.
And we saw the owl.
Yeah, and we saw the
but
owl.
I thought I heard a very short whistle.
Yeah. Again, it was a steady note. That's what got me.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like a person whistling. You can hear the fluctuation of the vocal cord. It was just a straight whistle, almost like screeching of wheels kind of whistle. Anyway, the alley didn't go all the way through the way we came in. There was a wall up there. It's part of the reason why I like to stop right here at the gate, because I actually came down here with a measuring tape one time to measure it. I wanted to see how far away it was. The wall was halfway between us and the street.
Okay.
So the reason why is because this used to be called Cow Alley before it was Dueler's Alley. This is where they kept the livestock from the city of Charleston. So cows, chickens, and goats are down here. They have to keep them all penned in. That's why the wall was there. However, what that means for you is the bricks down on the other side are older than the ones we're standing on. I'm talking on the ones on Queen Street side. So, and that's that side. Now, those bricks down there are sun-dried bricks from slave children. There's a full handprint from a slave child in one of those bricks and fingerprint swipes in others. And I used to take my groups down there for a history lesson. There was nothing paranormal about it. It was just merely, we all need to see this damn handprint to show how far away from slavery we've come.
Right.
So again, that's kind of my mentality behind it. I also treat that brick the same way I do a grave. That kid's not there. So that's the last place you're going to find him. Sorry, heated gloves make my life very happy.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet.
But anyway, so November 26th of 2020, I'm taking my entire group down there for the little history lesson, and they all huddle around that damn brick, waiting for something to happen, even though I told them nothing was going to happen with their gear. I'm also trying to be respectful to the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. We're standing outside his dining room window. He's not very happy with me. So he comes out screaming. My daughter thought it was great because she was on the tour that night and her dad's getting yelled at. So she thought it was hysterical. She's laughing her ass off. And we moved on. Where the hell's that little glove? But anyway, so the next day was Thanksgiving. I don't tour on Thanksgiving because I worked in upper management for Walmart for over 10 years. You guys like to fight over towels. I don't work on Thanksgiving because I've been scarred for life. So, put that in perspective. Now, the next day, I actually had a partner when I first started doing this. He's the one who dragged me out of my six-figure salary. And I called him up just to let him know what happened with the neighbor before a complaint went through, which one did. And he started laughing at me, too. Basically said, you're not allowed to go down that far, dude. You're not allowed to go down halfway. Otherwise, it's residential. It's out of bounds. So, I told my group that night, because I'm sold out again for Black Friday, that we got to reroute. I just don't believe in the next story because I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person. Obviously, we're discussing pirates next. So, before we left, somebody with a spirit box heard the name Anne. I didn't tell them which pirate. The famous female pirate, Anne Bonny, is who we're going to be looking into. So I was like, well, hot damn, maybe we're going to get something. We go up and around the corner, and I told them what I did know about piracy. Not much, because I only had a few hours to do some quick research to try to find something, to reroute everybody and get the whole point. And somebody else heard the number 300. I don't know what that means. I wrote it down. I did the research on it. We were there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. Yeah, that's normally the reaction I get. I was pissed off. Let me explain. I've already told you about my education. I have a master's in English and creative writing, right? When I'm writing fiction, and especially when I'm doing this and I'm writing nonfiction, I still need facts and data. Pirate stories come from pirate lore, which was written 100 years after the golden age of piracy, which is where most of our pirate stories come from. So, where the lights coming from?
Just making sure I'm not.
So weird. It's a very odd space tonight. Like, it's throwing me off. Like, you've got like a not so much. It might be just coming from the camera, but you have like a red glow on your face. Like, probably just from the camera. I'm like, where's that red light coming from?
I'm freaking you out.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just a weird space because it's super quiet in here tonight. Even more quiet than it normally is. But again, everything we're about to discuss came from a minimum of 2 resources. Again, I need stuff to verify, and it's a roll of the dice if Anne will be there at the same time we are or not.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're going to get things from Dr. Ladd while we're over there, and we do have a nice big space for us to be able to explore. So I'll give you the history of Anne Bonny over there. It's a fun story, if nothing else, if we don't get anything from the space, but hopefully Dr. Ladd will come through. And of course, you can just, have Tourette's syndrome, the entire time from here to there.
Perfect.
The gate before we leave, because this is another little fun fact that, you probably won't hear anywhere else.
Yep.
This actually has a weird piece of history, too, that not a lot of people know about. I told you that the alley didn't go all the way through this way. There was a wall up there, right? So if there was a loser to the duel over here, this was the shortcut to get to the cemetery on the other side of this wall. Otherwise, they have to pick up the dead body, the dead weight, all the way down to Queen Street and double back in order to get back up to the cemetery. So I call this the Death Gate. But you're going to find, if you're going to spend a lot of time in Charleston, you're going to hear a lot about the wrought iron that we have around the city. It's mainly done by one man. This one was probably put here in the early 1900s, but you can see that the archway is definitely part of the original wall.
Yeah.
So again, it's just a very interesting piece of history when you really dive into like how this place evolved over time.
Yeah.
So again, it had many other names. I've only told you about 3 of them. What it is now, Dueler's Alley before, and then Cow Alley before that. Before that, it was actually called Kinloch's Court because this was part of somebody's property down at the end of the alley. This was all one space. So again, very interesting how things evolve when you really start diving into the true history of the city. I mean, we got here in 1690.
Yeah.
We have a lot of history at this
Yeah.
I
stage.
know. Great.
So not sure how far back you guys go back in Arizona, but I mean this is
Not that far.
No.
You're gonna
What are we,
find us.
1912
Yeah,
we got
like
established or made a
1912.
state?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that
there
was
was a
when-
building on ASU campus that was
That-
put there in like 1870
Yeah,
something.
I mean, that's when
before
it
it was established.
became a
but yeah,
state.
that's
was
about as far
1912.
back.
God, the Pinckney Mansion was already destroyed by then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's how I put things on a timeline for myself because I obviously know the dates around the city. So when somebody tells me something else, I'm like, okay, that's about the same time as Pinckney's or
Yeah.
Anne Bonny or whoever else we're discussing. But again, most of the people I tell you about during where we go tonight is from colonial days.
Right.
And what's funny is they all probably lived here at the same time.
Yeah,
Like
it's
most of them.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Our last person did not, however. So he's a little different. And
Okay.
You're gonna see that once we get there.
Yeah.
Ready to learn about some crazy rated R pirates?
Yep.
Do you guys
Yes.
know anything about pirates?
Not really.
No.
Not really?
Not really.
All right, you can give your hands a break on that one. We
Okay.
probably have enough. I'm actually excited to try to find. Reminds me of, I'm sitting here looking at our shadows. With your SLS camera, it's gonna pick up shadows. So if you see somebody laying on the ground, it's not a ghost, it's you.
Okay.
So just like to point that out. But that is a lot of debunking with that camera. So if you do find something and you get a video of it, you can send it to me. You got my email address. I'll be glad to take a look at it.
Awesome.
That toilet seat one was really easy for me.
Yeah.
Just because that's an easy pick. But it's going to pick up the shape of anything that's in front of something else.
Ah.
So again, depth perception.
Yeah.
If you were to use an infrared camera, you would be able to see the spray of dots that it's putting out there. If you watch some of the TV shows, they'll show you from their infrared camera. Like it looks like a screen basically of dots.
Yep.
That's what's picking up all those depth perception pieces. Okay, so welcome to the Powder Magazine. So you'll probably visit this place at some point in time during, like, hey, I want to go check out some of the museums. This is a good $5 to spend to learn about some of the wars that Charleston was involved with.
Cool.
These are not crosses on the building. Those are earthquake bolts. If you're not familiar with what an earthquake bolt is, it's a turnbuckle. So as an engineer, this is going to be fascinating to you. So it looks like that, just like on the other side. So in the event that we have an earthquake, you can tighten up the turnbuckle, and it's supposed to tighten the building so it doesn't incur further damage. That's why the rods are so long.
That's
Now,
interesting.
the apartment building behind it also has earthquake bolts, but they're plates, and it's on every single floor of that apartment building. This is a great idea. It just doesn't work. So I would think as an engineer you would have caught that by now.
Yeah.
He's like looking at me like, are you shitting me right now? Like, no, I'm not. The reason I bring these ones up is because it's actually part of the reason why we're here. This is the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston ever put in. The reason why is, by the way, keep in mind that this building is the oldest government building in South Carolina. They wanted to protect it.
Cool.
But keep in mind of when this thing was built. It was finished in 1713. Again, South Carolina, oldest government building we have. Do you remember the year I told you about the big earthquake at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
86.
86.
So this was 60 years after. Then they put these in 10 years after that. So they got some ideas from things going on out west and the earthquakes going on out there, and this is what they came up with. And you're going to see these all over town in the Farm of Charleston charm bullshit and all these kind of buildings. Lion heads, pineapples, all kinds of stuff. It's just what we do here. They're not always the newest thing, but you get my point. But this building, the reason why we're here is because it's what I call a familiar. It was being constructed at the same time that Anne Bonny was coming here to start her new life. So the building took 10 years to build. By the way, let me kind of give you a better explanation of a familiar. So you guys watch the TV shows, something recent within the past year? Have you watched any other paranormal TV shows?
I have not.
I don't think I have in the last year.
There's a new device out there, Okay, the new device is called a Boo Buddy. It's basically a teddy bear, and it has the little blinky light EMF meter in it.
Okay.
So if a child comes near it, they would recognize it as a toy.
Wow.
Think of that concept with this building. We
Yeah.
don't have many buildings from Anne Bonny's time era. This is one of them. So that's the reason why we're here. It's a 50-50 shot that she'll be here at the same time we are. So the building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building? 10 years? No, not at all. Anyway, 1708 is where the history begins. Try to follow me on this one. There's a couple of twists. I'll slow down on the twist, but I'm going to breeze through everything else because there's a lot here.
Okay.
So, young lady moves here with her father, 1708. Young lady's name is Anne Cormack. She comes here with her dad and his mistress. The mistress is Anne's mother. Are you with me so far?
Yep.
The three of them running away from her father's angry wife.
Yep.
How mad was the wife that she booted him out of the country in 1708? There's no planes. It's by boat. They land in Georgetown. That's between us and Myrtle Beach. So Dad bought a plantation up there. Mom died pretty quickly. That means Dad is now sending young Anne down here to sell things from the plantation to help keep things afloat. You get the point. Hence the familiar building.
Yeah.
Now, Anne back home in Ireland was said to be a badass even when she was a little girl. They say when she was 7, 8, 9 years old, remember it's pirate lore, nothing is exact, they say she killed a servant with a knife to the belly. So again, imagine a little girl doing that. And we don't know how old the servant was. Could have been a teenage girl, we don't know. Anyway, fast forward, the building's done, but 2 years after the building's done, 1715, pirates are starting to come through Charlestown. Anne is stoked. The reason why, she's going to fall in love with one of these pirates so she can earn her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world during this time. The first guy she fell in love with, and I say first because there's a handful. We're going to go through them all. That's what makes the story so good. But anyway, the first guy is James Bonny. You already know where this one's going, right?
Yeah.
Dad didn't approve, filthy pirate. They go to Jamaica, they get married. Anne Cormack is now Anne Bonny, hence the pirate name. However, when she gets down there, she realizes her new husband is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy turns out to be a privateer. That means he's a spy for the British. He's a coward. This isn't who she wants. She falls in love again. Guy number 2. John Rackham. Everybody calls him Calico Jack. This is the guy they based your Johnny Depp character off of, just in case you're wondering.
Okay.
So he was a real person. Now, Calico Jack has his own ship. He has his own crew. Anne wants to be part of that crew, but you can't put a female on a pirate ship because it's bad luck. I normally, when I have a very awkward group, I throw that question back to them. They're like, does anybody know why you can't put a female on a pirate ship? And I get the feet shuffles, like, I'm not answering that filthy question. But anyway, he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and look like my crew, you could be part of the crew. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy apprentice back home in Ireland to hide her from his wife. She gets it. It's a man's world. But we're all adults here. Put 2 and 2 together. She is a female in Jack's quarters, and she is eventually going to get pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out she's a girl, and they'll get rid of Jack. They'll vote him off because that's how they do it. Jack drops her off in Cuba before she starts the show. Says, how does a baby here? Come back later. We'll figure it out. She goes and has that baby, but returns without a baby. We have no idea what happened to the child. None of my research has ever discovered it. She also comes back dressed as a female. She wants to make Jack pretty angry, basically, and it does. To make him even more mad, she is going to flirt with the pirate crew he just captured. They're down below deck. We're on guy number 3, in case you lost track. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females, dressed like males, on the same ship. Her name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. Now, Mary and Anne became friends, maybe lovers, we're not really sure because of the time frame, but the British find out where they are. They send a whole fleet of ships to come take down one pirate ship. The rumor is that Anne and Mary are the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with 1-bullet flintlocks. They don't know how to use cannon jets because they haven't been pirates for very long. Now, obviously 2 ladies with 1-bullet guns cannot take on a whole fleet of ships with cannons. They get arrested. As they're being arrested, Anne looks at her captain, Beau, Jack, and says, I'm sorry to see you here, but if you would have fought like a man, you wouldn't be hanged like a dog. The word dog shows up on communication devices all the time. Now, the judge wants to see the 2, quote-unquote, men that fought back so valiantly on their own. He wants to know what's going on here. He's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunk pirates. They're dead and gone. So, the 2 ladies go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender. The judge doesn't care that they're female. You know, they're trying to save themselves, and he just, no, you're still a pirate. You're going to be hung. They scream, we plead our bellies, because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. He sends them both back to jail, delays the hanging, but Dad is still up here in South Carolina. He has all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne and brings her home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4. We're going to count Mary. We don't really know. She has 4 kids with this gentleman, whoever he was, and dies at the age of 84.
Wow.
Very abrupt ending because everything after her pirate career is speculative and rumor, and I don't like to spread those things. There's a lot of theories out there. What she changed her name to, how many children she truly had, so forth and so on. There's a million things. The most common thing I found was that she just remarried and died at the age of 84 and had 4 children by that husband. That's all I know. Now, I'm not going to, well, by the way, Mary Read died 5 months later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Use your imagination. Most books tell you that it was fever. I'm going to say make it romantic, call it scurvy. I don't care what you call it. Could be all kinds of things, barnacles, whatever. Pirate stuff. Now, I'm not going to control the environment like what we did at the Pinckney Mansion. You can ask whatever you want to here. I'm just going to tell you a few things that I left out on purpose, so that way you can get the gist of how to get this party started. I did not tell you the name of Anne Bonny's parents. That's the father and the mistress. The name of the city where Anne grew up in Ireland, the name of Calico Jack's ship, and the color of Anne's hair. Everything else you want to ask is fair game. Again, this is a place where you can kick her in the shins to get answers. I'm not going to ask you to tiptoe around a prominent English woman because there isn't one here. It's a kick-ass female pirate. So we are going to do, again, a couple of laps in here, kind of see what we get. If I even see a 2.5 EMF reading in this location, I'm usually pretty excited. This is not the Pinckney Mansion site where we're going to have the 20s, 30s, and 40s like what we did over there at the Pinckney. We're at a 1.1 right now, but we are literally standing right next to a transformer that's pretty low. So I know the area pretty well. This whole front line can give us a pretty decent amount. Have you had anything weird show up on your camera?
No, not so far.
Okay, let me check my word list real quick. Ryan, have you heard anything?
I have not. I'll start listening more.
Okay. That's the beauty of this, is I can talk all night long, and you're still going to get the recording back to listen to it again. Yep. Oh, I did not explain the word roses. I don't always do that because it doesn't always pop up. We got the word roses when we were on our way over into Philadelphia Alley. So the house that Dr. Ladd lived in, we call it the Thomas Rose house.
Ah.
Yeah. The word rose or roses shows up all the time in this area. So, again, not surprised. Somebody can even hear the phrase Guns N' Roses from a radio station, and I'm still okay with that because that thing is slowed down. So, again, it's like, what color is a big red barn? And you hear Rudolph the Nosed Reindeer. I don't need all of that mess. I just need the word red in the middle of all that. So, I'm going to be keeping an eye mainly on this guy because this is not a place for high EMF. So, start spouting off whatever you hear, man. Let's take a couple laps. Let's see what we get out of it. What intrigues you the most? What do you want to know about?
Why did you stab the servant?
Oh, okay. I don't think I've had anybody really go after that question.
That's a good one. Anne, did you grow up in Galway? Yelling.
It's a yes/no question, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, English guy. I do it all night, every night. Come on, Ann, if you're here, we want to hear from you. We don't like to waste time, so if you got something to say, get it out.
Come on out, Anne. Where I tell my folks, if you brought a bottle of rum or you smoke something, go have at it. It's going to stir things up. Is it okay to ask about her children?
Yeah, how about it? This is not, like, it's not, again, prominent English woman.
And how many children did you have?
What's the real number? Yeah, we don't really know. We're guessing.
Right.
I think I heard you don't admit.
Okay.
That's weird. you want to ask any questions, Ry?
He can't hear you. He's got that thing cranked. I can hear it.
Oh, okay.
What's the name of the ship you were on?
Again, it's going to be all the silly things that you hear. Even if you hear, like, go buy a Toyota, I want to know that you heard go buy a Toyota.
Okay.
Because you never know what's going to stick. And we asked about your children. We asked about the servant that you allegedly stabbed. No bath. That's what I just got on there.
No bath.
No bath.
That's weird.
If you were a filthy pirate, give us the word filthy. That's a weird phrase to get. I don't think I've seen that a whole lot. I've been using this app for like 6 or 7 years now.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Right around?
Unless Bath is a city. So that could be, Bath could be a city as well.
Right around? That's interesting.
Like, what's interesting is I'm going to be looking to see if Bath was the name of a city that was around her hometown.
Bath is in England.
We're talking Ireland.
I know.
We had a Bath in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
you
reason
never
why
know.
that even rung a bell like that.
Yeah. And where did you grow up in Ireland?
Communist?
Okay, you throw it out.
Okay.
How many children did you have?
Sugar.
You might have heard heavenly.
Sugar was actually a major cash crop by the pirates. So I'm not surprised to see that here either. It's almost like she's trying to change the subject on us. And what else do you got? What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the crops? Do you want to tell us what the things that you stole? What you were fighting for? I mean, we're asking about you and your family, and you're trying to tell us about piracy. What was the last phrase that he just said?
What did you just say a minute ago?
What?
What did you just say a minute ago?
Heavenly.
Heaven.
That's what it was.
And then let's go.
Wow.
I got the word slowly.
Let's
And
go.
you need to tell us a few of these answers so we could verify that you're even here. If you're trying to change the subject, that's okay, but you need to keep on the same topic or theme.
You're expecting? Will remind you?
And tell us what sound we're hearing right now. What is that sound?
Nobody will give you more for your car? When I might have heard #1 in the country.
And what sound did we just hear out of the church? I don't believe that church was here when you were, but we're looking for verification that you're here. This is why I like the smaller groups, is because I get to get involved. When I have 10 people, I have to literally just do round robins to kind of see what's going on.
Revelation?
And if you want us to leave, you got to tell us. You got to give us the word home. I know we have the phrase "let's go," but I'm not convinced because I didn't ask for it. Stuck on the word list.
Get out of here?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. There's your
Okay.
cue. We're gonna go back to the wall.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did that creep you out?
A little bit.
You know what I just asked her?
No.
Yeah.
I just asked her if she wanted us to leave. She had to let us know by giving us the word home. And I said, I know we have the words "let's go," but I'm not convinced by that. And
Yes.
then you
Wow.
immediately, like almost like within 15 seconds, said, "Get out of here."
Wow. Okay.
Okay, we'll listen. That was weird. See, keep it loud because that way you don't hear what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to keep it loud.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, you can give your hands a break on this one. Let's not piss her off.
Oh, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yep. You're gonna
So
listen.
we're pretty much done with this guy.